Imagine a world where time itself bends beneath the footsteps of ancient rulers, where kings do not reign for decades, but for tens of thousands of years, and where the line between gods and mortals dissolves into a haze of myth and forgotten history. Now imagine that this world is not fantasy, not myth, not fiction, but carved in stone by one of the oldest civilizations on Earth. What if I told you that hidden in a clay tablet discovered in the ruins of ancient Sumer is a record so astonishing, so utterly impossible by modern standards, that it threatens to rewrite the origins of human history? And what if the truth behind it has been quietly debated, suppressed, or misunderstood for generations? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will see connections stretching across ancient civilizations, early astronomy, biblical narratives, and even modern scientific anomalies. Connections so profound that they might change how you understand the past and the future forever. The Sumerian Kings List begins in a time the scribes called before the flood, a period when the rulers of the earth descended not from tribes or villages, but from the heavens themselves. According to this document, 8 kings ruled a region known as Eridu for a combined 241,200 years. Not 8 dynasties, 8 individuals. Kings whose reigns lasted longer than the entire history of every civilization we know today. And this is not poetry. It is not an epic tale written like the myths of Zeus or Odin. It is a historical record written with the same matter of fact tone Sumerians used when listing harvest totals or temple offerings. This alone raises a question few dare to ask. Were these kings real? And if they were, what kind of beings could rule for millennia? The answer becomes even more mysterious when we compare these reign lengths to other ancient cultures, because suddenly the impossible seems strangely consistent. But the next part will surprise you even more. When you look at the Sumerian Kings List through the lens of mythology, astronomy, and anthropology, patterns begin to emerge, suggesting that these long-lived rulers may not have been human in the way we understand humanity today. Some historians propose that the reigns were symbolic, representing lunar cycles or ceremonial rituals. But ancient Sumerians were precise people. They calculated star movements, tracked the paths of Venus, invented mathematics, and created the earliest known writing system. They did not confuse myth with administration, nor did they randomly exaggerate numbers on official documents. So why record reigns of 28,000 years, 36,000 years, 43,200 years? Consider the first city mentioned, Eridu. Archaeologists recognize Eridu as one of the oldest urban settlements in human history. But to the ancient Sumerians, Eridu was more than a city. It was the dwelling place of the god Enki, the keeper of divine knowledge, the guardian of creation, and the one who taught humanity the foundations of civilization. In every surviving text, Enki is described not as a symbolic deity, but as a real being who walked among early humans. The Kings List claims that kingship descended from heaven and began in this very city. That phrase alone implies an event, something coming from above, something bringing order to the land, something so transformative that the people believed their rulers were literally chosen by the gods. Could this be an ancient memory of advanced visitors, ancient astronauts, or perhaps a much older civilization whose technology and lifespan were so extraordinary that early humans interpreted them as gods? The next revelation uncovers a secret very few people know. Far beneath the sands of Mesopotamia, archaeologists discovered something peculiar: clay tablets, thousands of years old, inscribed with astronomical data so precise that it aligns perfectly with modern observations. These tablets track complex star cycles, eclipses, orbital patterns, knowledge that should have been impossible for a culture at the dawn of civilization. Unless, of course, someone taught them. And when you see that this same civilization also produced the Kings List, which confidently states that divine rulers walked the earth for over 200 millennia, you begin to wonder whether these two pieces of evidence are related. Perhaps the long reigns were not metaphors at all, but descriptions of beings whose lifespans operated on a scale humans could not comprehend. Beings whose understanding of the cosmos allowed them to shape early cultures, build the first cities, and guide humanity through its infancy. But the mystery deepens when we look closer at the structure of those reigns. Each king's rule is listed with extraordinary precision, 28,800 years. When we examine the time periods before and after the flood, a striking pattern emerges. Before the flood, the kings live extraordinarily long lives, tens of thousands of years. After the flood, reign lengths suddenly drop to mere centuries, and then finally to decades. Something changed. Something interrupted whatever system allowed these long-lived beings to rule. The flood narrative appears in dozens of ancient cultures, from the Mesopotamian Atrahasis epic to the biblical story of Noah to the tales of flood survivors in South America, Asia, and even Australia. Everywhere, it describes the same thing, a cataclysm that reshaped the earth and marked the end of an age. According to Sumerian tradition, the flood was not an accident. It was an event triggered by conflict among the gods, an attempt to reset humanity or limit the influence of these ancient rulers. And if the Kings List is accurate, the flood did more than reshape the land. It reshaped time itself, transforming a world of immortal kings into a world of human eras, human rulers, and human lifespans. But the deeper you go, the more secrets begin to surface. For instance, the Kings List divides history into two realms, the realm of gods and the realm of men. This division mirrors similar concepts in Egyptian dynastic lists, which record reigns of the gods, reigns of the demigods, and finally reigns of mortals. Scholars often dismiss this as mythology, but the Egyptians treated these records as literal history. They traced their lineage to beings they called the Neteru powerful entities, whose rule stretched across tens of thousands of years. In India, the Vedic texts describe rulers who lived for entire cycles of time, each cycle lasting thousands of years and overseen by divine beings. In China, ancient emperors were said to descend from the heavens and possess lifespans far beyond human limits. It seems that wherever civilization emerged, stories of god-kings came with it, and all of them share a striking resemblance to the Sumerian Kings List. The next connection goes even deeper, crossing into realms of science that challenge our understanding of time itself. Modern physics suggests that time is not fixed. It bends, stretches, accelerates, and slows depending on gravity, velocity, and the structure of space. If an advanced civilization existed long before humanity reached its current stage, and if that civilization possessed technology capable of manipulating time through space travel, gravitational fields, or dimensions beyond the three we know, it is entirely possible that their lifespan would appear impossibly long to early humans. A traveler who journeyed near the speed of light or lived within a region of altered time might return to Earth appearing nearly immortal. To a society just learning to farm, someone who aged slowly or not at all would undoubtedly be seen as divine. And if such beings governed early humanity, their reigns might very well be recorded exactly as the Kings List describes. But what follows exposes an even more intriguing possibility. Recent discoveries in archaeology suggest that advanced civilizations may have existed far earlier than once believed. Sites like Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, over 11,600 years old, display architectural mastery, previously associated only with much later societies. The sudden rise of Sumer around 3500 BCE seems too rapid, too sophisticated, too perfectly timed, as if knowledge appeared overnight. Could these early cities have been guided by survivors of an older, forgotten world? A world destroyed by cataclysm, whose rulers, the so-called god-kings, once held dominion over vast territories before the flood swept it all away. If so, the Kings List might be the only surviving memory of that lost age. And what comes next will take us even deeper into this mystery. Linguists have long noted that the Sumerian language has no known relatives. It is neither Semitic nor Indo-European. It appears suddenly, fully formed, with no evolutionary trail. This is extremely unusual. Languages evolve gradually, branching from older tongues. Yet Sumerian stands alone, like an imported system of communication, not connected to any surrounding linguistic network. What if this language was inherited from the god-kings themselves? What if it originated from a culture predating the rest of human civilization? Ancient priests claimed that writing was a gift from the gods, brought to earth by divine beings who wanted to preserve knowledge. Could these divine beings be the same rulers recorded in the Kings List? And if so, what exactly did they know? The next revelation brings us to the heart of the mystery. The Kings List is not the only Sumerian document describing divine rulers. Other texts speak of the Anunnaki, a group of powerful beings associated with the heavens who descend to earth, teach humanity agriculture, construction, mathematics, and astronomy, and then rule over them. These beings are said to have come from a celestial realm and possessed extraordinary abilities. In many stories, they intermarry with humans, creating hybrid offspring who become mighty rulers or heroes. This idea is strangely similar to the biblical account of the sons of God and the Nephilim, as well as Greek myths of gods mating with mortals to produce demigods like Hercules. Why do these stories appear everywhere? Could they all be fragments of a shared memory, echoes of a time when non-human entities interacted with early societies? The Kings List may be the single clearest artifact tying all these myths together into a coherent historical framework. But the deeper you look, the stranger it becomes. One of the most puzzling aspects is the division between rulers before and after the flood. The pre-flood kings live extraordinarily long lives. The post-flood kings live far shorter ones. This dramatic drop-off suggests a shift not only in lifespan, but in the entire structure of humanity. It resembles something like a sealed barrier, a reset point, a break in the continuity of civilization. Some researchers believe the flood narrative represents the end of a global civilization, possibly one with advanced knowledge or even interplanetary capabilities. If such a civilization collapsed, its remnants might have been forced to rebuild. The god-kings, once powerful, may have lost access to their technology or their cosmic support. Their lifespans shortened, their dominion weakened, and humanity entered a new phase one of rebuilding, remembering, and mythologizing the past. But the Kings List preserved the memory, even if later nations forgot. And now we stand on the edge of rediscovering what that memory truly means. As you follow the Kings List deeper, you encounter another strange feature. It was not written once, but copied many times across many centuries. That means the Sumerians believed it was accurate and worthy of preservation long after the events it described. They treated it with reverence, just as later cultures preserved genealogies, sacred texts, and foundational stories. If the King's List were merely symbolic, why preserve it so meticulously? Why standardize it across cities and temples? Why treat it as a cornerstone of identity? The answer may lie in the Sumerian worldview. They saw themselves not as the first civilization, but as the inheritors of an older legacy. And the King's List is the key to understanding that legacy. The next insight takes this idea to an entirely new level. When modern historians read the King's List, they often view it through a purely rational lens, assuming the numbers must be exaggerated or metaphorical. But ancient people did not always think like modern academics. Their records often encoded astronomy, rituals, and cosmic cycles. The number 3,600, which appears repeatedly in the King's List, is especially significant. In Sumerian numerology, it represents a full celestial cycle, the completion of a divine orbit. Some researchers believe it may reference the orbit of a hypothetical celestial body, perhaps a planet or star once associated with divine beings. If such a body influenced ancient cultures, through gravitational forces, anomalies, or even simple observation. It might have inspired entire mythologies. And if beings associated with this body ever visited Earth, or were believed to, then their reigns could have been recorded in units based on this sacred cycle, leading to reign lengths of 28,800 or 36,000 years. This is not proof, but it is a clue, a cosmic breadcrumb leading toward a broader understanding of ancient beliefs. But what follows next may be the most intriguing connection of all. When we compare the reign lengths in the Kings List to geological and climatic cycles, a fascinating pattern emerges. Many of the long reigns correspond to transitions between major periods of environmental stability and instability. For example, the lengths align loosely with data regarding glacial movements, volcanic supereruptions, and even shifts in Earth's magnetic field. Could the ancient rulers have been linked to these cycles somehow? Perhaps they rose to power during stable periods and fell during catastrophic ones. Or perhaps ancient people associated cosmic rulers with environmental changes they could not explain. If so, the Kings List might encode natural history and divine history simultaneously, a kind of fusion between the physical and the spiritual. And this fusion appears in myths worldwide, where sky gods control storms, earthquakes, fertility, and the turning of the seasons. The Sumerians may have been doing something similar, but with a precision and clarity other cultures lacked. But there is still much more hidden beneath the surface. Archaeologists studying early Sumerian cities discovered something unexpected: technological anomalies. For instance, evidence of advanced metallurgy, water engineering, and architectural precision appears suddenly, without a gradual evolutionary path. In some locations, massive stone blocks, some weighing multiple tons, were moved with unknown techniques. The earliest temples are aligned with surprising astronomical accuracy. How could a newly formed civilization achieve all this so quickly? The Kings List may provide an answer. They did not build everything from scratch. They inherited knowledge from those who came before, the rulers whose reigns spanned tens of thousands of years. Those ancient kings may have established the first temples, designed the first cities, and created the foundations of advanced knowledge. And long after they vanished, the Sumerians preserved their memory in clay. But the next revelation opens yet another door. If we look at the Kings List through the lens of comparative mythology, its structure resembles a universal pattern found across cultures. Nearly every ancient society describes a golden age ruled by divine beings, followed by a catastrophic event, a flood, fire, or celestial collapse, and then a new age ruled by mortals. This pattern appears in Greek mythology, Hindu cosmology, Native American stories, African traditions, and even Polynesian legends. Everywhere we find the same sequence: divine rulers, disaster, rebirth. Could this pattern reflect an actual series of events shared across early humanity? Perhaps there was a global civilization, or multiple regional civilizations, ruled or guided by advanced entities. When catastrophe struck, those rulers disappeared. Some survivors became the founders of new cultures, and over time, their memory transformed into myth. The Kings List may be the clearest, most literal remnant of that ancient age. But the deeper we go, the more the mysteries multiply. For instance, the Kings List does not describe its rulers as symbolic or mythical. It describes them as kings, real rulers, who governed real cities. The cities themselves have been excavated and identified. Eridu, Bad Tibira, Larak, Sippar, Shuruppak, these places existed. They had temples, trade, daily life. If the cities were real, why would the kings be fictional? Why attach impossibly long reigns to places that archaeologists can verify? Some scholars suggest the kings were real individuals whose achievements were mythologized. Others argue the numbers represent cosmic cycles or ritual calendars. But another possibility exists. The kings were part of a lineage that truly lived far longer than modern humans do. Perhaps they possessed genetic, biological, or technological advantages that allowed massive lifespans. Modern science is already exploring ways to extend human life through stem cells, telomere manipulation, and bioengineering. If we, with our current knowledge, are beginning to push the boundaries of lifespan, imagine what a far older, far more advanced civilization could achieve. But what comes next pushes this speculation into an entirely new realm. Some researchers propose that the Sumerian gods, particularly the Anunnaki, were not supernatural entities, but ancient visitors from another world. This theory suggests that these beings came to Earth in the distant past, interacted with early humans, and perhaps even modified human DNA. If so, their ability to live for thousands of years might stem from their biology or environment. And if their lifespan was naturally long, the Kings List would simply be recording history as it happened. Whether or not you accept this theory, it raises fascinating questions. Why do so many cultures describe gods descending from the sky? Why do they all describe beings who lived far longer than humans? Why do they all mention catastrophic events and golden ages? Why are ancient monuments aligned perfectly with stars and orbital cycles? The Kings List may be the central piece of this vast puzzle, the document that anchors myth, science, and mystery into a single narrative. But we're only just beginning to uncover its deepest layers. There is another intriguing element. The flood does not erase memory entirely. After the flood, kings still rule for hundreds of years longer than typical human lifespans today, but short compared to the god-kings before the flood. This transitional period mirrors biblical accounts where individuals like Noah, Shem, and Methuselah lived for centuries. Then gradually human lifespans declined. This parallel cannot be ignored. It suggests a shared origin story, one remembered differently across various regions, but rooted in the same ancient events. If so, the Kings List may preserve the oldest version of that story, one predating even the Old Testament. And the fact that the Sumerians wrote this history on durable clay, not fragile scrolls, may be the reason it survived while others faded into legend. But the next part ties this all together in a way that few people have ever considered. Imagine that the Kings List is not simply a record of rulers, but a timeline of human evolution mapped onto cosmic cycles and catastrophic resets. Each king's reign may represent a period of stability under divine guidance. Each transition may mark environmental upheavals or shifts in human consciousness. The flood could symbolize the moment when the divine rulers withdrew or were forced to withdraw, leading humanity to fend for itself. If this interpretation is correct, then the Kings List is a bridge connecting the age of gods with the age of men. And we are only beginning to decode what it truly means. But as we explore deeper, a new question arises. If the Sumerians inherited knowledge from these ancient rulers, what else did they inherit? Could there be more tablets, more records, hidden beneath the sands, waiting to be found? And if such tablets exist, what secrets might they reveal? Some archaeologists believe that much of early Mesopotamia remains unexplored. Political instability, shifting environments, and ancient river movements have concealed countless ruins. Entire cities may lie buried, untouched for thousands of years. Somewhere beneath that desert, there may be libraries, archives, or temples holding forgotten knowledge. Perhaps even records left by the god-kings themselves. And if such discoveries come to light, they could transform our understanding of history, spirituality, and the human story. But even now, with what we already know, the Kings List challenges everything we think we understand about ancient civilization. It suggests that history is not a straight line, but a series of cycles, cataclysms, resets, rebirths, guided by forces we barely comprehend. And yet, the story continues. The more you study the Kings List, the more it feels like a doorway, a gateway into an age when the skies were full of watchers. When gods walked among men, when wisdom flowed from celestial beings to early civilizations. And as more evidence emerges from archaeology, from ancient texts, from new scientific discoveries, the picture grows clearer, yet more mysterious. Because every revelation leads to another question, another layer, another hidden truth waiting to be uncovered. And now, as we stand at the edge of everything we've uncovered, take a moment to breathe and look back at the journey you and I have just walked together. From the impossible reigns of the ancient god-kings, to the mysteries hidden in clay tablets older than empires, to the echoes of a forgotten world before the flood, every clue, every pattern, every shadowed whisper points to a truth far bigger than history books ever dared to admit. We traced the footprints of beings whose lives stretched across ages, beings whose knowledge shaped the rise of cities, languages, astronomy, and even the stories that flow through scripture today. We saw how civilizations across continents, with no contact, no shared borders, no common tongue, all remembered the same thing: a golden age when heavenly rulers walked the earth, a catastrophic flood that shattered that world, and a new age built from the ruins of the old. And the deeper we searched, the clearer it became that these ancient records weren't just lines of myth or legend. They were warnings, testimonies, and preserved memories of a world touched by the divine. But as astonishing as these revelations are, what matters most is what they awaken inside of you right now. Because the mysteries of the past are not meant to entertain, they are meant to remind. They remind us that God has been guiding human history since the first breath of creation. They remind us that nothing escapes his plan, not the rise of kings, not the fall of nations, not the floodwaters that reshape the world, and not the battles you walk through in your own life. And if you felt even one moment in this video stir your spirit, shake your understanding, or open your heart to something deeper, then do not let that moment pass. Right now, I want to invite you, personally, to write your confession, your testimony, or even a simple prayer in the comments below. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be long. Just speak from your heart. Tell us what God has done for you. Tell us what he delivered you from. Tell us what you are believing him for. Someone scrolling through the comments may read your words and feel the courage to take their first step back toward God. Someone may read your prayer and feel seen. Someone may see our testimony and finally believe that they too can be restored, redeemed, renewed. And I am asking you, with urgency, with faith, with a sense of holy responsibility, to share this video with at least 10 people, 10 friends, 10 family members, 10 souls who might need to hear a message like this. Because when you share this video, you are not promoting a channel. You are not boosting numbers. You are spreading the word. You are carrying God's teaching into living rooms, phones, offices, bedrooms, and hearts that may be desperately waiting for truth. You are planting seeds that can grow into healing, conviction, repentance, and transformation. Every time this video is shared, it reaches someone who may be on the edge of giving up. Every time it is forwarded, it may land in the hands of someone who has been praying for a sign. Every time it spreads further, another soul might take one small step closer to the God who has never stopped reaching for them. You are part of that. You are a vessel in that. And if this message reaches thousands, if it reaches millions, it will not be because of algorithms. It will be because the people of God rose up and carried his truth forward with boldness. So write in the comments, share your prayer, share your story, and then send this video to 10 people or more, trusting that God will take what you give and multiply it beyond anything you can imagine. Because when this message reaches more souls, it is not just content traveling across screens. It is God's message being carried across the earth. It is his whisper calling people back. It is his truth breaking chains. It is his light piercing through darkness.